Tonight on the program, Thailand's household debts will remain fragile for the rest of the year. Are people's earnings proportionate to their spending? An exclusive interview with the new UK ambassador to Thailand, and how an American YouTuber deals with negative criticism online.
สวัสดีค่ะ I'm Nat Bunag and welcome to This Week with Thai PBS World. Last week we've been talking about how Thai people are not so happy, especially from the COVID-19 pandemic as well as the economic situation. Tonight we're going to look at the other side of it because it has been reported that the household economy will remain fragile for the rest of the year despite that it has been improving since last month. So according to the Kasikorn Research Center's Economic Condition Index, or the ECI report, Thailand's household economy has improved but will remain fragile for the rest of the year due to a combination of flooding, rising energy prices, and the uncertainty over the COVID-19 pandemic. And if we look at the ECI index for September, Thailand's index for September is 36.6, and that is a slight improvement from August, which was recorded at 33, thanks to the government's easing of lockdown restrictions such as malls and eateries being allowed to resume limited operations. But although the September index has improved, the number is still relatively low compared to last year, as many households were worried about the increased spending on energy, public utilities, as well as debt. And if we really look into the living expenses that people in Bangkok have to deal with, we can see that the salary is not even enough to cover the living expenses, not to mention other expenses as well, such as traveling expenses, accommodation expenses, as well as other things. And if we look at the infographic we're showing you right here, people in Bangkok earn around 26,000 baht a month. And this is not even enough to cover the living expenses, which is on average about 33,000 baht a month. And this also includes traveling expenses, accommodation expenses as well. But if we compare Bangkok with other cities in the ASEAN region, Bangkok is only behind Singapore, being the city that has the highest living expenses in the ASEAN region. But if we notice carefully, Singapore earns much more than their living expenses, so their quality of life in general is much better than people in Bangkok. And other cities that are quite similar to Bangkok in terms of having their salaries that are much lower than the living expenses in general are Ho Chi Minh City, Jakarta, and Manila of the Philippines. Well, including the traveling expenses, this also includes the oil prices that have gone up and down during the past week. But if we really compare the oil prices as of Wednesday to the oil prices back in April, you can see that the prices, whether it's diesel, gasoline, or gasohol, it has been increasing every single month. And of course, it definitely affects people when they have to travel around the city or to other provinces as well. And apart from the oil prices that affects people's lives, the increase of transportation fees also affects them as well. So one of our reporters had a chance to talk to the locals about what they really think about the increase of the transportation fees while their cost of living is already high.
Last year, a full tank of gas cost me 700 baht. Last week, a full tank of gas cost me 900 baht. Not just the motorists that are feeling the rise of transportation costs. Only a week ago, the BTS Skytrain canceled their monthly cards, saying that a new promotion would be in store for customers. This will put a heavy strain on all the regular train passengers. Today, we're going to hit the streets of Bangkok to talk to pedestrians on how this price surge has affected their day-to-day lives.
โอ้โหกระทบมากเลยนะครับแล้วก็อีกอย่างหนึ่งมันน้ำมันก็ขึ้นค่าของชีพก็ขึ้นแล้วรายได้โควิด ก็ยังไม่ซาเท่าไหร่อ่ะพอมาเจอแบบนี้ก็ไปยิ่งโอ้โหรายจ่ายมันยิ่งบวกเข้าไปอีก
เต็มถังร้อยกว่า110 120นี่นะครับเพราะว่าบางทีเราถ้าต้องได้ให้ถูกกว่านี้น่าจะได้เงินดีกว่านี้หน่อยครับเพราะว่าเดี๋ยวนี้มันแพงเกินครับอยากให้ลดลงมั่งสักบาท2 บาทอยากให้เขาลดน้ำมันลงมาหน่อยครับไม่ต้อง30ขึ้นเพราะว่า28 29ก็พอดี
มันก็มีผลกระทบนิดนึงแต่ว่ามันไม่ถึงขนาดคนที่เขาใช้รถยนต์นะรถยนต์น่าจะเติมแพงกว่าก็ดีถ้าเขาควบคุมเกี่ยวกับพวกอะไรที่ทำให้คนแบบว่าประหยัดได้มากขึ้นใช่ไหมเพราะว่ารถเนี่ยมันจำเป็นต้องใช้อยู่แล้วยิ่งถ้าน้ำมันแพงนี่คือมันก็ส่งผลต่อคนที่เขาทำมาหากินเหมือนกัน
We also spoke to pedestrians who relied on the monthly BTS cards to reduce the cost of traveling to work.
คิดว่ามันก็มีผลบ้างนะครับไม่ว่าจะเป็นเรื่องของเวลาที่เราต้องเสียในการที่เราจะไปจ่ายแต่ละรอบก็เสียเวลาอย่างนั้นถ้าตัวเดียวมันจะสบายกว่าแต่ถ้าก็ยกเลิกขึ้นมาก็ถามว่ากระทบไหมก็อาจจะกระทบบ้างครับ
ค่าใช้จ่ายเราเพิ่มขึ้นแต่ว่ารายได้เท่าเดิมเนาะตอนนี้โควิดด้วยไงพี่ว่ามันก็ต้องประหยัด
เหมือนเกณฑ์การผลักภาระให้ผู้บริโภคทั้งหมดคือพอทวงเงินจากรัฐไม่ได้ก็ใครอยากขึ้นก็ต้องยอมรับตรงนี้อะไรอย่างเงี้ยขนส่งสาธารณะมันเป็นการทำให้คนเดินทางได้ทุกคนเท่าเทียมกันในราคาที่ทุกคนสามารถจ่ายได้อย่างเงี้ยแล้วคือประเทศไทยมันไม่ได้รายได้ทุกคนสูงขนาดที่จะจ่ายเงินแบบนั้นได้อะไรอย่างเงี้ยคือมันควรเป็นขนส่งสาธารณะที่ทุกคนสามารถขึ้นได้โดยที่ไม่เดือดร้อนมากจนเกินไป
Stephanie Adair for Thai PBS World.
And of course, not everyone is happy with the increase of the traveling fees. And to shed more light on the ratio between the living costs as well as the earnings, recently Kun Hathai Teshikit Thiranan had a chance to talk to the Associate Professor Dr. Thanawat Phunwichai on this issue, whether this is actually proportionate and what can be done to solve this issue.
Are living expenses and incomes in Thailand proportionate for the working and middle classes in this country, in your opinion?
I think based on our survey about consumer behavior of Thai people, right now Thai people have saving about 10% of their income. But some people, they like to increase or enhance their quality of life. They like to invest or buy. So they borrow from the commercial bank. In that case, they have a less amount of saving, about 3 to 5%.
That seems quite low. Do you think compared to other countries, this 10% is just not enough? How do we solve this? Do minimum wages have to be raised, for example?
I think it depends on the class of Thai people. I think for the Thai people who has a wage or salary more than 30,000 baht a month, I think they have a saving about 20% or more. But for Thai people in like a low middle income level, they have a saving about 5 to 10%. I think it's quite low. Right now, the minimum wage of Thai economy is not too high, but not too low. It's covered their expenditure in their life, but it's quite low compared to another country. Maybe right now the minimum wage of Thailand is about 330 baht per day. It's covered for one person expenditure.
Right.
But someone who has family, has spouse, or one children or two children, is quite low.
So how do we solve this, Ajahn? Do we need to actually keep raising the minimum wages? What is the appropriate amount and timeline? Because raising too much, I think it is quite a no-brainer to see that there will be some sort of inflation coming after.
I think in theory, a minimum wage should be raised every year, cover inflation rate. I think the government and the business sector and labor union agree that in every year minimum wage should be raised about 3 to 5%, because right now inflation rate of Thailand is about 3 to 5%.
And in terms of public transportation, do you think it has been adequate and appropriately or proportionally priced?
It depends on what kind of worker they work, and how much salary they have. I mean, if you have a minimum wage for living, you have to work near your house. So the cost of transportation is not too high, because you can take a bus, or maybe you choose yourself to buy a bicycle and you ride a bicycle, go to your factory or go to your company. I think they can manage that. The mass transportation of Thailand, I mean the bus in a metropolitan area, the government subsidized the price of a ride. From the survey of UTCC and the data that we have, I think transportation cost of Thai people is average about 10 to 20% of their income. That's okay.
What else do you think can be done to improve the livelihood of people, both by the government and also each household themselves?
So the government is supposed to boost up the economic activities after COVID or after pandemic, and the government try to reduce the poverty problem, and they like to resolve the income inequality. I think that's the way to enhance quality of life of Thai people.
I see. Thanks so much, Professor, for your insight today.
All right, thank you. And that's Khun Hatthai Techakitturana's interview with the Associate Professor Dr. Thanawat Phonvichai. And moving on to another issue that has been a big interest is the Phuket Sandbox scheme. It has been 4 months since Phuket has reopened to vaccinated foreign tourists, but it looks like the locals' lives haven't really improved since the reopening. So we had a chance to talk to some of the locals about what they really think about this issue and whether they are really happy with their lives at the moment. One of the beach chair operators on Patong Beach revealed that their income has slightly improved after the start of the Phuket Sandbox scheme, but they feel that their current income is not even enough to pay their existing installments or even to support their employees.
มีความเป็นอยู่ที่ดีขึ้นนะครับผมนิดนึงนะครับไม่ได้เยอะมากมายอะไรครับเพราะว่าการท่องเที่ยวยังโตไม่ถึงจะพูดว่า 10% ก็ยังไม่ถึงตอนนี้ครับผมพอมีรายได้เพื่อที่จะมาเลี้ยงดูจุนเจือครอบครัวไม่มีฮะความสุขมันหายไปแล้วณตอนนั้นนี้เพราะว่าหาความสุขคือมันหาไม่ได้แล้วครับคือหาได้คือหารายได้ยังไงให้มาเลี้ยงครอบครัวเลี้ยงให้ลูกน้องให้อยู่ได้ที่จะพอมีกินแล้วก็พอใช้ครับผมก็ต้องจ่ายผ่อนบ้านผ่อนรถค่ากินค่าโน้นค่านี่ค่านั่นอีกเยอะแยะไหนจะดูลูกแลลูกน้องอีกก็ต้องดูแลเขาครับเพราะว่าเราต้องซัพพอร์ตเวลาที่เขาไม่มีรายได้เราก็ต้องจุนเจือที่เราสมควรที่จะให้ได้ครับ
Similarly, a masseuse and a food vendor on Patong Beach says that they are not happy with their lives at the moment because of their daily expenses while they are barely earning any income.
รายได้ดีไหมมันก็ดีกว่าค่ะดีกว่าเราไม่ได้ทำอะไรเลยเพราะว่าพอภูเก็ตซันบ็อกมามันก็ทุกคนก็มาทำงานปกติเหมือนใช้ชีวิตปกติเหมือนไม่มีอะไรเกิดขึ้นนะคะแต่ว่าจะปรับตัวมันก็ต้องปรับตัวให้ได้อะค่ะพี่ไม่มีบ้างไม่มีบ้างแล้วแต่บางครั้งเพราะอะไรอะคะทำไมถึงไม่รายจ่ายเยอะรายได้มันน้อยแล้วก็อย่างค่าของมันก็แพงด้วยภาษีภูเก็ตมันแพงข้าวกล่องนึงก็สตาร์ทก็50-60แล้วพี่
ช่วงแรกภูเก็ตแซนด์บ็อกซ์แขกมาโอเคแขกมาเยอะแต่ว่าเขาก็กระจายไปเที่ยวตรงนู้นตรงนี้ใช่ไหมเที่ยวกระจายตรงนี้แล้วมันมาผิดตรงที่ว่าพอเข้ามาแล้วกักตัวที่นี่14 วันใช่ไหมกักตัว14 วันแล้วเวลาเขาจะไปต่างจังหวัดอ่ะมันไม่มีเครื่องให้เขามันก็เลยเขาก็เลยไม่อยากมาไงแขกเคยบ่นว่าพอจะไปต่างจังหวัดก็ต้องเหมาแท็กซี่ไปซึ่งมันแพงมาก มีความสุขไม่มีความสุขก็แขกมันกระท่อนกระแท่นไหนจะค่าบ้านค่าอยู่ค่ากินค่างวดรถจิปาถะมีครอบครัวด้วยมีพ่อแม่ไม่สบายเจ็บป่วยไม่สบายจะส่งตังค์ไปรักษาก็ลำบากมากลำบากบางทีก็ต้องหวานอมขมกลืนหน้าชื่นอกตรม
And despite the reopening to foreign tourists in the resort island of Phuket, many people are still unhappy with their lives as they're still struggling to make ends meet as they barely earn any income. And now let's have a look at the other top stories making it to the weekly roundup.
Several credit and debit cards have been suspended following complaints from tens of thousands of customers that money had been deducted from their accounts for transactions which they had not undertaken. About 130 million baht was mysteriously withdrawn from 10,700 bank accounts between October 14 and 17th alone. An investigation is underway to get to the bottom of it. Foreigners applying for OA non-immigrant visas for stays in Thailand above to 1 year are now required to have a health insurance policy with minimum coverage of 3 million baht for inpatient medical fees instead of the previous 400,000 baht. According to the Thai Immigration Bureau and the Department of Consular Affairs, 3,768 foreigners were granted non-immigrant visas last and this year. Thailand is expected to enter the cold season next week, and the periods of chilly weather will last longer, which is 5 to 7 days at a time instead of just 3 or 5 days as in previous years. Before the new season, most parts of the country will experience storms and strong winds first. Through December and January, temperatures in Bangkok are forecast to drop to 21 to 23 degrees Celsius.
And now it's time for our weekly columns where we explore into inside stories as well as exclusive interviews. For this week on the ambassador, Kun Hatthai Teshikituranan had a chance to talk to the new UK ambassador to Thailand as he talks about what he really likes the most about Thailand, as well as bilateral relations in the economy, security, and other issues.
Starting his posting in July and accredited in September, the new UK ambassador to Thailand, Mark Yuding, is no stranger to the country, having backpacked here as a student and visited the country for work.
I've been to Thailand many times over the years. The first time I came to Thailand was in 1994 as a student backpacker, and I travelled around, and so at that point I became fascinated with Thai history, Thai culture, and fell in love with the country. And I've been back many times since then for private and professional visits. So I was very happy to get the job here.
Staying here in Bangkok with his husband, the ambassador actually arrived in Thailand several months before his post to study the Thai language.
And I was able to spend 7 months in Bangkok learning Thai. So I was exploring a lot of Bangkok. I managed to do a part of my course in Khon Kaen, in Chiang Mai, and I also got to travel to some other places as well. So as well as learning the language, I got a feel for the country and some of the food, some of the scenery, and very much enjoyed myself. I think Thailand is such a diverse country, and each province has its own distinct identity and culture.
Regarding bilateral relations, economic development and security are the main focus, while as an ASEAN dialogue partner, the UK is also looking to strengthen its regional role, including the situation in Myanmar.
Our ministers in the UK understood the importance of this region, both for economic and security issues. There are many sectors such as science and technology, innovation, education, services, health, where I think we can cooperate more in the years ahead. We already cooperate a lot on counter-terrorism, organised crime, regional security, and I think there's more that we can do in those areas. We have the first UK-Thailand Joint Economic and Trade Committee meeting in the next few months, and we also have our regular strategic dialogue which should take place hopefully very soon before the end of this year, and that will set the direction for our bilateral relationship over the year ahead. I mean, we have a lot of health cooperation between the UK and Thailand, not just on COVID but also on other illnesses, on mental health and genomics, so that is an area of real growth for us.
Among assistance provided in terms of health, the UK donated 415,000 doses of AstraZeneca vaccine to Thailand back in July.
it just shows how in COVID we have to work together internationally, and that means making the best of vaccines, but also sharing information about the spread of the disease and ideas in terms of how we can limit the spread and help treat people who catch it.
Around 50,000 Britons lived in Thailand, according to the ambassador, and the embassy has a large consular team to help British nationals in Thailand with all kinds of issues, including access to vaccines.
In any year, we will be providing assistance to more than 1,500 British people in Thailand. We help people who are vulnerable. So there are lots of cases, and that work hasn't stopped. What we've done is worked with other embassies here and with the royal government to expand the vaccination programme so that foreigners, including British people, can have access here in Thailand. And that's starting to work.
Like some other countries, the UK is also focusing on anti-climate change efforts, but this year is special for the United Kingdom as it will very soon host the UN Climate Change Conference known as COP26 in Glasgow, beginning at the end of October.
So that is a big priority for us to engage with Thailand and other countries in this region on that.
With Thailand being removed from the UK's red list of countries from which travellers are required to enter quarantine upon entry on October 7th, His Excellency shed some light on this and shared how the embassy was working hard to make the lifting of travel restrictions possible.
We are opening up gradually for travel, and in respect of red listing, there are various factors behind it. It's not just about total case numbers, but in the case of Thailand, the question is about testing for variants of concern. So we're working with the Ministry of Public Health to increase the volume of testing.
Hoping that more Thais will study, visit, or even do business in the UK, Mr. Gooding highlighted diversity as a trademark of the country.
Well, for me, the UK is a real melting pot. It's very diverse. If you want an experience studying, you want academic excellence, but you also want people from around the world to gather to study with you, then the UK is the place to go. If you want to do business in a very open and sophisticated market, but where other businesses are gathered as well, then the UK is an obvious place. And some of the most interesting trips I've done around the UK have been to all the different corners. They have very different cultures, identities, sceneries, so I would encourage people to explore.
Hathaita Shikitiranan reporting for Thai PBS World.
And now it's time for Home Away, where we explore the lives of expats living in Thailand. Last time round, we talked to Forrest Lee, an American YouTuber, on his volunteering work in Thailand. This time round, he's going to talk about how he deals with negative criticism, as well as some tips on how to develop a thick skin.
What up, what up, what up? Bam.
Now, a travel content creator, Forrest Lee, wanted to be either a police officer or an FBI agent when he was a boy. Instead, he ended up serving in the US military for 6 years before starting his new career as a YouTuber. And it seems to be the right job for him.
In the meantime, let's go hit a chest workout.
I'd say probably just being able to connect with the fans. You know, I've met people that I would have never met before if it wasn't for my channel. You know, just people giving, you know, leaving on the comments. There is a plus and a negative for it. You know, you get a lot of nice people, but you also have a lot of negative people. You know, that's, you know, it's life. But I'm just more focused on the more positive people that, you know, that will help, you know, just connect fans from different backgrounds. The community, that's it. You know, I love chatting with people. I love leaving comments. I love talking to people through Instagram. So YouTube has definitely connected me with definitely a lot of people, you know, that I would have never imagined.
Like every content creator or influencer, from time to time he gets negative comments, and that makes him feel horrible. He told me how he deals with it.
When I see negative comments, I'm like, oh, whatever. Like, you know, and it really depends on the levels. If it's something that's really nasty, like maybe some racist comments, I'll just block them. You know, but if it's something that's kind of maybe like a backhanded, you know, comment, I'd be like, ah, whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. I think the best advice is probably whenever you see comments that are either positive or negative, you need to be indifferent about it. Like 100% indifferent about it.
Even if it's good
even the good and the bad. I mean, that's one thing I've learned from one of my favorite, one of my favorite content creators, Gary Vaynerchuk. He mentions through a lot of his stuff, he mentions that you have how you deal with negative comments is that you can't value them at all, but you also can't value positive comments at all. That's how you deal with negative comments. You just got to be indifferent. Somebody says, "Oh, hey, you did a fantastic job." You look at it and you're like, "Okay, cool." There's somebody who criticizes you and be like, "All right, cool, whatever." That's it. That's how you kind of keep your, I guess, mental health in check.
However, becoming a thick-skinned or a tough person is not very easy. It's a skill you need to practice frequently. At the moment, Forrest is getting used to a lot of harsh criticism, but it took him quite some time to develop this ability.
Well, just like everywhere I travel all over.
In the beginning, it hurts. It sucks, and I felt it too. But it takes time. It's practicing. It's like you running for the first time. When you run for the first time, you're gonna be like, "Oh my God, this sucks," But as you keep doing it, repetition, every day, it gets easier more and more and more. So same with negative comments. In the beginning it hurts. Then after a while, you just can't value them, and you get so used to it. You're like, "Nah, whatever, go away."
In today's world, it seems like social media literacy has become one of the most important skills one needs to possess, especially teenagers who develop their self-identity through pictures, video clips, posts, and comments in virtual reality. Some get good reactions from their peers, but some receive negative criticism or even worse, cyberbullying, which in many cases has led to suicides.
There is a lot of cyberbullying, but then, and I wish them the best, but this is something that I would never ever want anyone to kill themselves, especially over some random idiot that they've never met over on the internet that's just saying these mean things behind a computer screen with probably a fake, profile avatar, even none, So this is something that, I'm against, and bullying will never go away. There's always gonna be nasty people out there. I think if anything, you just need to encourage people to be more tough, and to also to reach, even reach out to other people, to kind of talk about things like, cyberbullying or, bullying in real life, So I think that's very important.
In the next part, I asked why a man who's visited over 40 countries around the world decided to call Thailand his favorite and stay in Bangkok during the most boring time in its history, COVID lockdown.
And of course, dealing with negative criticism is never easy, even for celebrities, YouTubers, and influencers, including anchors like us as well. And that wraps up tonight's edition of This Week with Thai PBS World. Don't forget to catch us every Friday at 11 p.m. only on Thai PBS. And don't forget to follow us on social media, as well as our website, thaipbsworld.com, for all the latest updates as well as analyses. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and we'll see you next Friday. สวัสดีค่ะ